Helen, welcome to our Facebook Live. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so for those of you who don't know Helen, I want to do a quick bio intro. You good with that, Helen?
Oh, I'm great with that.
All right, so Helen founded Aspen Wealth Management in 2011. It is a fee-only comprehensive financial planning firm. All right, so we're going to stop with the bio here for a second. Just really quickly, what does fee-only mean?
It really means that we get paid one of two ways. We get paid for a financial planning service or for managing money, which includes financial planning. So we don't sell any product here. We receive no commissions. We receive no side income from any kind of product out there.
So it's just a straight, we charge a percentage of how much you're managing.
Correct.
And it's not based on the number of trades or anything like
Correct.
that.
And if we need to do something like an insurance for a client, if that was a recommendation or something like that, we bring in experts from the outside so that we can sit side by side with our client. And so we try to reduce conflicts of interest as much as we can.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's continue telling people who you are. You're a certified financial planner, and you got that in '93. You're also an enrolled agent, as well as a certified exit planner. For those of you that don't know, an enrolled agent, only two people can talk to the IRS, CPAs and enrolled agents.
Yes, and attorneys.
Oh, attorneys can't. Okay. Oh, there you go. Learn stuff every day. Helen's frequently a speaker on the subject of women in money. Yay. So we can cover that. You have an undergraduate degree in finance from the Cox School of Business at SMU, and you've been quoted in a lot of publications, including the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I just have to say that, Helen, when you and I were talking, I don't know, a few weeks ago, you said something that cracked me up, that you have been busy recently and you have not been able to respond when places like the Wall Street Journal call for quotes. That's I don't know anybody that's like, I'm so sorry, I don't have time for that.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, my business coach would kick me in the can and tell me I need to make more time for that. But you know, my happy place is being in my conference room with clients and helping families. And I know that that's a way to get more business, but frankly, if we do a good job for our clients, then the rest will take care of itself.
That is awesome. Okay. So there are things we can talk about today. But the reason why I wanted you to come on is because you work with a bunch of business owners and you help them get ready to transition out of their company.
Yes.
So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, it's a recent passion. So I've been a financial planner for a long, long time. But a very significant event happened to me personally in December of 2016. And that is that my entrepreneur father died without an exit plan for his business.
I remember when he died, I didn't realize he didn't have an exit plan.
Correct. And this was a big, as a financial planner, it's not that I wasn't knowledgeable. It's not that I wasn't somewhat involved in some ways, but only on the fringe.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very private man.
And it's hard to tell your parents what to do.
Well, it is. I got a lot done, but that was the last piece that I just did not succeed with. And so that business landed in my lap out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
And I already had a business. I had at home, 3 kids. I'm married.
You have a dog named Baxter?
A dog named Baxter that I like to walk. I mean, so I call it my night job. And it took years to get this thing under control because I was learning a whole new business. And he was of the age that things weren't systematized and computerized and all these. So it really
there was paper involved.
I like to put on my cape and save the world. And so I started thinking about this and I discovered the Exit Planning Institute and I got very interested in, how do I help other business owners families not experience what I've gone through. And furthermore, I mean, if I hadn't been a business person with business acumen, maybe that's not my interest, but it is. What would families have done in similar situations that didn't have somebody to catch this
Right.
ball running? It would have destroyed the value of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying that I'm all that in a bag of chips, but I mean, we're just pretty lucky that I was able to pivot and deal with this.
And you could get your arms around it.
I could get my arms around it. And so,
Wait, hold on. Do you still own this business?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's systematized and I have outside help. And, there are things now that I have done to make it a manageable process and try to retain value and grow value.
Mm-hmm.
But Aspen's my love. I mean,
Right.
that's my number one. So,
well, and I think what you said a minute ago, you were able to get your hands around it.
yes, I was.
However, it's hard. You're already not in a good place. You're already grieving. And
Right.
then to have to take that on,
Right.
that's huge.
It's huge. And I'm sorry, I think entrepreneurs, we just by our very nature, think that the business is going to be perpetual forever and ever, amen, and we are never going to die, nor are we ever going to become disabled. None of these things are ever going to happen to us.
No, we're like teenagers. We are totally invincible.
We are in every way.
Our businesses are.
Well, and for some, I mean, there are some entrepreneurs that just say, well, I'm never going to retire. I'm always going to work. Okay, well, when you can't, or so you die, we're all going to go there eventually.
Right.
If you do have a significant other that depends on your revenue, then what?
Or even if you don't, so I'm not married. I don't have a significant other. I don't have children. If I die, it's less about my family and much more about my employees.
Absolutely.
What happens to them?
I mean, think about the number of people that small businesses employ.
What is it, 80% of the US economy or
I mean,
something?
we are
90?
the job generators of this nation. And if we, boom, and something happens to our employees, I mean, that's a horrible thought. I mean, they're the reasons, my employees are the reasons I put in my transition plan for Aspen Wealth Management several years ago, because I thought, well, if something happens to me, I don't want them all to find themselves
out of a job.
Yeah. So it's a really serious issue. And so I really just became passionate, as the more I learned, the more passionate I became about helping business owners live their best lives. I mean, what is your story? Do you want to work forever? Do you want to retire? How do we get your equity out of your business? And really, it's a very, very high percentage of businesses that never manage to get their equity out because they don't plan early enough.
Yeah. You have told me some amazing stats before that I think are incredible. So boomers own 65% of the private businesses in the US.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting any younger, people.
No. The youngest boomers are now mid-50s.
And 80 to 90% of their wealth is tied up in their business. It's there. That's not liquid. You can't access that.
No.
I think some of the other ones, 80%, and this one is terrifying. So I wrote an article years ago that said you need to start with the end in mind.
Yes.
You need to start your business. And when you form your business, you need to set it up knowing what's going to happen. Is this a business that you're going to pass on to generations of your family? Is this a business you're going to sell? What are you going to do? So for instance, I've always known I'm going to sell this business at some point, not this week, not this year, but at some point.
Sure.
And so it doesn't have my name on it. on purpose.
Aspen Wealth Management. I get
On
it.
purpose, right?
Yeah.
So, however, the terrifying stat that we discussed is 80% of businesses under $50 million don't sell when you put them on the market.
Mhm.
What happens to those businesses? And how do those owners get their equity out? And how do the owners create a business that becomes one of the 20% that does sell?
Well, and that's where the exit planning process comes in. I mean, I think there are different gaps that exist. The first one to realize is, what is the wealth gap of the owner? I mean, what does the owner, what's the end? What's the end in mind? What does the owner need to harvest from this business to be able to retire in the life of which he or she has become accustomed and wants to live? I mean, what's the dream there, right?
Yeah.
In order to realize that equity value, you also have to know what your profit gap is. So, what are you leaving on the table every day when you do business? Could you operate better to be able to have a better profit? It should not go without notice that more profitable companies tend to sell. Gee,
Shocker.
shocker, and that's where your company comes in. Is
That's
to
where we
help
come in.
people figuring out their profit gap. I've heard you lecture on the profit gap before. And then there's the value gap. I mean, are you operating with key performance indicators that are best in class to your peers?
Mm-hmm.
And so once you identify, what the profit gap is, what your value gap is, then you're going to be able to figure out, okay, how do we get there to meet the wealth gap?
Well, and I think something that's worth noting is that doesn't happen overnight.
No, that's correct. It is a process.
It is. You have to, it takes, when someone is buying your business, they're going to ask for at least 3 years of past financials, possibly 5. So you've got to get that business in shape
Yes.
long before you plan to sell. All right, so let's go back to the planning to sell, because you love this, and this is your jam.
It is my jam.
It still cracks me up that you haven't sold your family business, but whatever. Okay. You have a thing that you talk about called the 5 Ds.
Yes.
What are the 5 Ds?
The 5 Ds are the big things out there that every business owner should have a plan for today, no matter what. The first is death. We've already talked about that. I mean, so what is the family, the spouse, the significant other, the other meaningful parties in an entrepreneur's life supposed to do when they pass away in order to retain this business or these employees to keep them employed?
Right, because we could get hit by a bus. I have friends who have literally been hit by buses. One has been hit by 2 buses.
Well, no one plans for that. I mean, it's like who plans for that? So you need a contingency plan for your business. For instance, I talked about the succession planning of Aspen Wealth Management. Years ago, I put in place a key person insurance policy to help transition this business. Not only does it fund, my estate, but it gives my people the equity by which to buy it out. It's a very well thought out plan. It has come with training. There's a lot of documented procedures and policies and things in place to make this if I get hit by that proverbial bus, I have no worries that my clients are going to be great. My people are going to be fine. I'm sure they're going to miss me nagging, but they're going to be fine. The other
what do your children call you? The dream squelcher?
Dream crusher.
Dream crusher.
Dream crusher. I'm also the fun sucker.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have that. They're all adults now, though.
But you're not as bad as one would think you would be. Okay.
No, that's true. The other one is disability, hand in hand. So some people think about disability like, I can't move. Okay, that is one. But if you have a stroke, potentially, your brain isn't the way that it once was. And there's long rehab with that. And So disability alongside of death is something that someone needs to take care of if they're a business owner, to figure out, okay, what's going to happen? Who does what role? Who takes on, this, that, or the other thing? And I think that that's just smart planning in general.
Well, and it is, and I think about people like there was an attorney here in Fort Worth who had a stroke, and he was a litigator, was being the key word. After the stroke, his mind just was not fast enough, and
Right.
he's fine. He's living a life, but he can't do his job.
Yeah.
And so his firm, he didn't have a plan. And a ton of people in the legal community really banded together and helped him out, which is great. But you're not always assured of having friends who are going to take care of you.
No, that is true. There was a CPA here in our community that literally died at the desk doing taxes last tax season.
Oh my gosh.
And for the clients, if just think about COVID tax season anyway. It was elongated. It was very stressful. Rules were changing all the time. People were trying to pull together stuff for PPP. Just left clients in the complete lurch. And the family didn't have anyone to be able to do the tax
step
work.
in and do that.
So
Right.
it's really those types of things are very difficult to navigate if you don't have a plan in place. The third is divorce. And different states, this could be monumental for different reasons. Here, of course, where we live in Texas, we're a community property state. So technically, if you started this business at the time of your marriage, your spouse, just by its very nature, owns 50% if you don't have a prenup or a postnup agreement stating otherwise. But it is an asset, and that asset has value. And so that value is typically taken into account at the time of the divorce. Can create a lot of havoc financially for the business. Yeah. I mean, so that's just none of this is very pleasant, right?
No.
The fourth D is disagreement. So if you have multiple partners, what if one goes sideways with you? Do you have things listed in your member agreement to deal with that?
Do you have an agreement?
Very good.
You would be shocked at how many, especially attorneys, I have worked with. I'm like, we have no partnership agreement here. We need a partnership agreement. Let's work on a partnership agreement.
Yes.
And while you are the fund crusher, I am the partnership crusher. We have had, don't put me on the
phone. You're saving them from things that you don't even see yet.
I'm like, you people don't belong together and you need to go away.
Right. And then if there's equity value, sometimes depending on how that partnership is structured, there is equity value within that business. And how do you pay off that partner? To get them to go away. So that comes back into the financial plan. And yes, that is my jam. But all of that needs to be addressed, and how lucky they are to have you telling them that from the very beginning. The last D is distress, and coming out of 2020, all of us can relate to distress as a business owner. And that could be supply chain issues if you're a manufacturer. That could be just business interruption in general. So how to deal with distress within your business if there's unforeseen circumstances that happen. In our industry, we're required to have that in our policies and procedures. The SEC requires it. But not every industry has that watchdog out there saying, okay, what happens if you get hit by a tornado? What happens if your building burns down?
Yeah.
Contingency planning.
Well, and I think that's something that I've been asked about a lot this year. How do we plan this year? How do you budget for this year? Because everything is so up in the air, and you said contingency plans. And I think that's key. What is, I talk about good, better, best. What's the worst case scenario? What's the normal case scenario? What's the best case scenario? Like, what are you doing? What are your options? What are your contingency plans? If your business falls off a cliff, what is the plan to rein in expenses, to save as many jobs, and to save as much value in your company as you
Right.
can?
And make those decisions before it happens. And then you can sleep at night and not have to worry about it. Go hole up in a hotel and really think it through for a night away. Have a little mini retreat and just get
Mhm.
on it. But all of this is meant to make the business itself stronger, more valuable, and therefore something that actually has value that can transition.
Yeah. I know that a lot of people don't like writing a will. They don't like talking about what's going to happen when they die because they feel like you're killing them off and saying you're about to die. Doesn't matter what their age is.
Right.
But
No, that's
as people age, they feel that way. And do they feel the same way about this business succession planning?
it's a lot. I mean, I find that the biggest problems we have trying to get estate plans in place for clients, it's not that they don't want to get their estate plan done. They just don't know who to fill in the blanks. Who is going to be my executor or executrix? Who's going to be on my pull the plug document if that's their choice?
Oh, here's how I fixed that one. I made my brother do it because I swear he would pull the plug for my car. Maybe not this car. He really liked my Range Rover, my Mercedes he doesn't care about. My sister, it would tear her up. Not that it wouldn't tear up my brother, but
Right. But that's the dilemma. People say, I don't have anyone that I trust, that I fully trust, that would understand my wishes, that I know without question they would be able to carry them out.
well,
So
and it's so hard to think about all those things. And you do have to add in the emotion of what they're going through at the time when you're asking them to do these things.
analysis paralysis. So business owners just don't move because I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
And I don't need it right now, right? Because we're all invincible.
That's right. No bus is going to come near my body.
That's right. Even though I have friends who have literally been hit by buses, multiple friends. One has been hit twice. How do you get hit by two buses in your life?
You live in New York?
No, I know that he got hit by one in Puerto Rico. I don't know where the other one was.
That's good stuff. Not really, but you get the point.
I know. All right, let's talk about some other stuff. Have we really covered why people should have an exit plan?
Yes. I mean, I think just in a nutshell, I mean, we want to make sure that business owners can maximize the value, right? That
Mm-hmm.
they have a means by which to transition that. And do they know that they're financially prepared to do so? I mean, a lot of business owners don't do their own financial plans. They're so focused on their business, they forget to look at their personal. They don't get under that hood. But lastly, to make sure that when they do transition, they transition well. And by that, I mean that, and we see this even people leaving corporate life where they're not an entrepreneur, but they didn't take enough time to plan for what we call the third act, that next phase of life. And so depression can set in, people have regret, people wish they woulda, coulda, shoulda. You know, what I really want to try to accomplish with all of our clients, not just business owners, but all of our clients, is to, have a great passion moving forward. We don't want regrets. We only want to look ahead. And so, it's making sure that people are mentally prepared to leave their baby. Because when you've grown a company from nothing, I mean, it's your baby. And to be able to hand that off to somebody else is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I just want people to be, emotionally prepared for that, as much as financially prepared for that.
Well, and I love that you talk about the third act. I was randomly talking to my best friend from college about this, I think last weekend, about 10 days ago. And we were talking about retirement. We were talking about our fathers, and when her father retired, it took him about 3 years to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And those were really rough 3 years on a mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'd make a point to talk about that with clients before they quit.
Before they get there.
Yeah. Before COVID, my greatest suggestion was, what trip have you planned? Because the week after you're done, I want to know that you're on a plane or on a boat or in a car doing something that you've always wanted to do. What is it? Let's take a bucket list item. Let's plug it in, get you started on the right foot. And then when you come back, what are the 3 phone calls you're going to make for the volunteer service that you told me about, or fill in the blanks. That's different, but you've got to keep people focused on moving ahead and getting engaged so that they don't get stuck in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to move when you're depressed and not feeling your best.
Yeah. All right, Helen, what else do we need to know about just caring for our business? I mean, I think that most of us, oh shoot. Okay, so sorry. Welcome to the world of technology. Unfortunately, we got booted out of Zoom, and so we lost the last part of our discussion. So I do want to let you know how to contact Helen. So she owns Aspen Wealth Management, and it's her URL is aspenwealthmgt.com. You can find her on Twitter at Aspen Wealth Management, MGT. And she also has a podcast, and you can go to her podcast and learn a lot of information about who she is and what they do and who all the players are in her office. The last piece of information that I really want to make sure that you all heard is that Helen is fee only. This means that she does not get a commission. She doesn't get money for any suggestion she makes. And that means that when you're sitting in a room and she says, you need to buy this kind of insurance and you need to buy this much of it, she is making that decision 100% based on what is happening in your life, in your financial plan. It has nothing to do with her. Many, many, many financial planners get commissions on that. So when they're selling you something, they're also making money. So when you look for a financial planner, look for one that's fee only. There is a group called Fee Only, and it may be feeonly.com or feeonly.org. You can contact them, but generally Google Fee Only Financial Planner. And if you have any questions, contact Helen. She is an awesome resource. And if she's not the right fit for you, she will find a good financial planner for you. So sorry we got cut off at the end. Hope everybody has a great day.